I want you to get together.
Well, yeah, it's interesting you say the Matrix there because me and my wife actually discussed this quite a lot. This idea that reality is kind of an illusion or a hologram of some kind or a program of some kind, and
Yeah.
I always
Yep.
argue, well, yeah, if that is the case, which it very well may be, it's still God's program and His creation, regardless, and we have to live in it. So that's kind of my rebuttal to that.
Agreed.
I don't get
Yeah.
gnosticy about it. This is why I'm saying it's from my perspective, reality is extremely psychedelic and confusing, and it's not something we can pin down and quantitate. Use math to measure perfectly and expect it to work. The math will always be
Yeah.
off in some way because there is this arbitrary chaos to it all. Especially when you get down to a quantum level, nothing makes sense anymore. And I think
Yeah.
my what I've kind of formulated is this is not so saith God, this is so thinketh Paul, to quote Rob Skiba. You know what I mean? This is me thinking that maybe it is more holographic in nature, I think our perceptions interact with it and change it in many ways as well. I think nothing exists unless
Yeah.
there's an observer. We know that through science, and it has its purposes, I suppose. But they have observed that without an observer, matter turns to a waveform. It's no longer physical; it's wavy, whatever that means, And that tells. And the thing is about Earth is there's always eyes on everything at all times because we have insects. We have microscopic things that exist on here with us, and everything is always in a form of observation, making it solid,
You're right. It's
making it
life
real.
everywhere.
It doesn't matter where you are. You might be able to prove it in a vacuum, but you would be hard pressed to prove that out there in anywhere in the world. It's kind of that old adage of if a tree falls in the woods and there's no one around to hear it, does it make a noise? And that, I guess the answer to that is, well, as long as there's bugs around, yes. It's kind of there'll always be an observer, and it's not just humans themselves exactly that necessarily make it manifest. Or maybe it is. Maybe it is only human consciousness that makes things manifest. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that one. I'm open to it. But that alone proves that reality isn't as cut and dry and solid as we think it is, and things that seem physically impossible by a physics standard can happen. That includes sources of light and heat going through portals in ways we just cannot comprehend and moving in ways we just do
Yeah.
not understand. And even then, I've had my own theories, which you may have listened to, about angels and what they are. I believe angels are mechanical in many ways and also akin to dragons. They've been described in many ways, but I also know that the angels are stars and planets too. And I think I
Yes.
think Enoch was
I
trying.
agree.
Enoch talks about this, and the punishment reserved for the fiery mountains and the planets, the wandering stars, is like a 10,000 year punishment for what they did, and that's leave their first estate and deceive the nations basically into thinking they were gods. Is what I took
Mhm.
from that, because that's what happened. People equate godlyhood to planets, especially in history, just simply because they
Yeah. And the
decided,
Romans and
yeah,
people.
because they simply decided to wander. There was detrimental consequences for them moving. And I think what we're being told there is that all of nature is made up of conscious beings you can call angels in one way, shape, or form. Okay, and stars are just a type of angel that make God created them to have a role like a cog in a machine within reality. And when a third of the angels rebelled and left their first estate, that was not a trivial thing. That completely broke the machine we call reality. It broke it because they've all left. All these cogs just stopped being where they needed to be in rebellion against God. And now the world we live in is an even more psychedelic mess compared to what it used to be. Because these angels are no longer where they should be, performing the actions they should be. And you can see this all throughout mythology. You have river gods, forest gods, gods of wind, gods of clouds, gods of the sky. There's gods for every single part of nature that ever. And I think maybe that's because they are made up of what we call angels by a biblical standard. There's a consciousness behind them that makes
Mhm.
them function correctly. And this is where I'm saying reality is way more psychedelic than we can comprehend.
Exactly. People are
Way
stuck in the
more.
physical
Yeah.
and not paying so much to the spiritual.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the spiritual and physical are synonymous with each other, and I think there's maybe a level above the spiritual we consider in our astral realm here to mirror the earth. Maybe there's a heaven above that, and that's we get into dimensions and all sorts of trippy ideas, But I think people do have a very three-dimensional view of everything, and I think a lot of people are scared to not be able to square it and know it. They're scared of not being able to know stuff,
Hmm.
and I'm okay with not knowing. This is the difference. I think
Yeah,
this
like
is
you said, some stuff is just like how we supposed to understand certain things. It's just on a different level,
absolutely, yeah.
especially like the creation itself. You know how it's working, where they're going. You know.
Yeah, we can get glimpses. And like I
Yeah.
said, Enoch got a glimpse, didn't he? And he tried to write down in primitive words what these things he saw, But I
Yep.
think the things he saw are beyond comprehension and words alone, And we can only do our best with like a facsimile type of
Hmm.
simulacrum in our minds, which we can translate into words somehow to what he would have witnessed, for example. But he did say, like I said, said, things move through their allotted portals, the celestial bodies. They have a place they need to be and they travel through portals. He did say that. And he said the wandering stars or the planets are being severely punished for what they did. There's a special place in hell for them, shall we say? Even though that's not what it says exactly, But I'm
Oh,
paraphrasing.
and it just reminded me another thing is these islands. I don't know, flat earthers probably a lot of flat earthers probably know about these certain islands. I'm trying to remember the name, Dolomite or Dolman. It's these islands that are in between like Russia and America,
Hmm.
and they're like 6 miles apart, but it's like 20-hour difference in the sun. And everybody's like, this doesn't make sense. But again, for someone like me, I'm like, oh, that just proves, Book of Enoch.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, the sun went through a
so
portal, yeah, exactly, and it didn't turn back up again there for another 20 hours. Um,
yeah.
it's yeah, but it's hard to explain that. Like, what do you mean a portal exactly? Yeah, that's what people would
I
ask.
know. That's why it's even crazier probably than the circular dish.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, the thing is,
but then
I have seen. I was talking about this in my last video, UFO phenomena, and UFO phenomena kind of ties in with this concept. I think we can kind of square it a little bit. Because I think a lot of what
yeah.
we see as UFOs are lights in the sky, aren't they? And you can only describe them as lights, balls of bodiless fire, shall we say? And that's what I've witnessed. I've witnessed balls of light manifest right in front of me, about 50 meters away in the sky, like a cluster of orange lights. But they appear out of nowhere from one side and then they disappear once they all move across and hit another invisible barrier I can't see. And they're all appearing and disappearing in formation through a portal into another portal. And I'm just getting a glimpse of them manifesting through and in and out of a portal. And in a way, I imagine that's a lot like how the sun would work. It would just disappear once it hits the barrier. It's like an
Uh-huh.
invisible wall to us, It's not like a
Yeah.
a window literally opens up in the firmament for it to go through. I don't think it's quite as mechanical as that. And
Agreed.
I think a lot of this UFO phenomena is perhaps we're getting glimpses into the mechanics of this reality, and we're kind of seeing it probably when we shouldn't be. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's like a the
Well,
veil.
I thought you did a great job talking about it. You mentioned, and I'm in the same camp as you. The only difference is I think it's going to be in Antarctica, and you were saying the North Pole.
Hmm.
But I'm saying that this whole alien agenda is because they're going to go to war with the camp of the saints.
Yes.
So for people who believe that the Millennial Kingdom happened, then when this happened, this event, Jesus and the saints have this place that's set aside,
Hmm.
and this is the camp of the saints was set aside. So and it's like this huge place that if it was anywhere like where we're all living at now, we would definitely be able to see it. It's like massive. And the only thing that made sense to me is Antarctica, because Antarctica, and then the Admiral Byrd stories, which I'm sure most flat earthers and conspiracy people know, with Admiral Byrd talking about he gets past the ice, and that diary came out from his son a couple years ago. Is it Masonic propaganda? I don't know, but if it's not, it's kind of backing up that the Millennial Kingdom and Jesus is, that stuff's out there.
Hmm.
He talks about like this crystal city or this emerald city. Is that, the temple that came down with the Millennial Kingdom? Is this where the saints and Jesus have been at? And when the 1,000 years were ruling, this is where they were located at. And they would go around to the nations. Um, and the one thing we have to talk about is Antarctica wasn't covered in ice until recently.
Hmm.
And we know this from the maps, right? And everybody's seen the maps where it shows Antarctica with land and not ice.
Hmm.
And then we got these stories from the 1500s where they start talking about this like ice age coming and the ice forming out there, right? And that's why you even got like this famous guy now, Graham Hancock, right? This famous guy who's on Netflix doing documentaries. He did the Ancient Armageddon. He's now going to Antarctica because he saw those maps from the 1500s
Hmm.
showing Antarctica, the landmass. So that guy recently went down to Antarctica where there was a 24-hour sun, just for the people who don't believe in it. And there was and they found that the land under the ice matches the map. So it wasn't like, where people like, oh, this was what, like it wasn't real. Like they know for a fact that those maps were accurate. So obviously when they made that, there was no ice there.
Hmm.
So, I tie it into the Millennial Kingdom is this the spot that's like set apart? And then you got the ice that's like kind of protecting, right? And then you get into the whole Game of Thrones conspiracy, the ice wall, right? And all these things.
Well, let me just stop you there. So maybe
Yeah.
maybe you can help me. So I remember, I think was it Admiral Byrd who said there is a continent the size of South America yet unexplored, or something. Was it him who
Yeah.
said that? Yeah, yeah. And he's saying,
Yeah.
if you just go
And he
south.
talked about like UFOs and that they had advanced technology that they brought his plane down, like
Yeah.
out of the sky, like brought it down, and this Emerald City or this Golden City or
So this,
Crystal City,
so
something like
so what
that.
you're saying is this is actually the millennium. This is it. This is the beloved city. This is the camp of saints. This is where
Yeah,
Christ currently
and
is.
that could be where we can't see it because it's so far out there.
Yeah. So can you
You
can you
know,
explain to me then? So what's the model to get that to happen then? Because obviously, the flat earthers say there's just a big giant ice ring that makes up Antarctica. Okay. So
yeah,
how would he inhabit that? He can't. Obviously, that model's probably wrong then, isn't it? So
yeah,
you say it's square. How does this work
yeah.
then? What is it exactly? How?
We're probably not even shown. These maps are probably after that was cut off,
Hmm.
or people who never been there. I mean, uh, or is it just that body of Antarctica that's under ice? I mean, why would all the countries, we all, us conspiracy people, know that there has to be something going on there? Why would
Hmm.
they right away jump in there and make a treaty that no country or anybody could go there? The Nazis were going there right away.
Hmm.
The Nazi scientists were immediately going to Antarctica and were reported finding UFOs and stuff. And we know at this point that the Nazis had UFO technology. Um, is this where they got it from, right? And they were telling them that it's aliens, but is it angels?
Hmm.
Is it angel technology?
It's funny you
Um,
say this as well. You've just reminded, because on screen there's these old medieval paintings coming up right now that show Christ, and the saints, and it reminded me that there is a painting out there which people have pointed to so many times that it shows what looks like a person flying in a UFO in the background. And
yes.
there's even another painting that shows what looks like a metal shining UFO in the sky. I think Mary Magdalene's in the forefront and in the background in
Yep.
the sky. And it's like, hang on, this Millennial Kingdom thing does actually make sense of that a bit more. Maybe they actually had this stuff then during that time, during the Millennial Reign. They were flying around in these
Yeah.
amazing, strange technological forward slash mystical, spiritual vessels of some kind, that radiated
Yeah.
and glowed and were far beyond our comprehension or technological understanding. Maybe that might explain these paintings, and because it's just I never could understand that. Like, why would a medieval painting, the supposed Dark Ages, depicting Jesus or
Well,
Mary?
ancient aliens, they're going to jump on it and say that's the stuff they love to say. See, this proves aliens came here from, Orion or wherever. And
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. Jesus is just a consciousness within, and it wasn't a real person or something. But
yeah,
it's,
yes,
yeah,
yeah.
this makes sense that now. I never thought about that concept. I'm going to make a video about this and look into it. I think now I've said this because there's something because there's loads of
Nice. I
paintings like
planted
that.
a seed.
Yeah,
Cool.
because there are honestly there's loads of paintings that show UFOs in medieval settings, but they're always involved with a holy aspect, like with Jesus or
Yeah.
Mary or something or the saints, and it's
Well,
possible they really
it's
did
funny
have that.
because
Yeah.
doesn't it feel like we kind of got boxed into it? Because again, the world we've been born into and what they were teaching us and what we thought we knew in school and everything based on evolution, and they've beat it into our heads that our ancestors were stupid.
Mm.
So it's like we never think like the Romans probably weren't stupid. I mean, if you're building aqueducts and coliseums, and people I'm sure have seen them, that's not primitive stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
I feel like the ancients have been like, everybody kind of thinks like it's crazy to think that they had advanced technology, because we've been programmed to think like you've been programmed to think you're on a ball, that, everybody was stupid up until recently. And that's one of the things that hijacks us, you know?
Yeah. No,
Where,
absolutely.
like you said, these people, why couldn't they have advanced technology? Why couldn't the Romans have advanced technology? When they talk about Rome ruled the world, I take it as Rome ruled the world. I don't take it as they ruled like a certain area in the Mediterranean. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I look at things completely different, just like I'm sure you and the audience do.
Well,
Because
this might actually
we have
also,
to.
just as an alternative angle here. You say Rome ruled the world and had a global empire, perhaps at some point. And we're always
Yeah,
told that a lot of these cathedrals we see around the UK with the mainly with the round arches, not the curved arches, is Roman architecture. They have Roman aqueducts just all over the place.
yep,
Roman roads. All the roads are built by Rome. All roads lead to Rome. It's kind of and
yep,
they're constantly digging up bathhouses everywhere. Every other month there's a new
yep,
bathhouse uncovered somewhere. But then you look at the architecture and you realize that what the Tartarian thinkers were pointing out is there's just this identical pillared based architecture everywhere. There's Parthenons all over the place. There's like,
yep,
and there's these weird temples with this very specific design, which we call temples, but they've been repurposed into courthouses or train stations or something, and it's kind
yeah,
of, but it's from every continent, from China to India, to Africa to Europe to North and South America. It's the same architecture everywhere, which
yeah,
implies there was people of one mind at some point. And no, we
exactly.
are saying, well, could this be remnants of the millennial reign? But what if it is actually a remnant of what was just before the millennial reign? Was built by
Yeah,
Rome,
that's something I think about too. I'm still open to that,
Yeah. Well,
because I think that these people probably were advanced and they could have. I mean, I, I, I think you'll like this. I'll tie into like America and Washington, D.C. We're told like Washington, D.C., all the names and all the stuff that go with it have to do with Rome. And even like you said, the structure, the Capitol building, they say this is Greco-Roman style that they chose to do. Why would these people 1700 years supposedly after the Rome, and you're this new nation,
mhm,
why would you build it on Roman, or is this just Roman structures? You know what I mean? Like,
mhm.
all these just the Greco-Roman structures. Rome ruled the world. They meant the world. Um, you know, Clearly Columbus, that whole story, they 1492 Columbus discovers America, and oh, what he did to the natives, so horrible. What's so funny is I've been constantly for the past couple of years asking people from South America, who almost every single person I meet, Mexican, Ecuadorian, or whatever, they're all Roman Catholic. Basically, every single one I meet is Catholic, and they believe in Jesus. And I say to them, um, if Columbus was this like evil conqueror who came and like killed and raped and like forced you to worship this fake god, why is it for 500 years you still worship this guy and like still celebrated him for 500 years? And they're all like, Yeah, you got a good point.
Yeah,
Like,
it's just a thought I've come up with now, to be honest. Because again, I'm still hashing this out. You know, I'm just trying to figure stuff out here, and I do have to make sense of things. And there is a shared architectural style all over the earth, you know, and it may
yeah,
explain why the Caesars had, you know, the emperors of Rome had such god complexes if they really did conquer the entire world, you know.
I want you to get together.